Wow, this was so dark.
Yeah. Oh, damn.
Right? Walking through here, this is great. I mean, they got some interesting shadows and stuff like this, but actually playing through it is not trivial.
Yeesh.
They kept the illustration almost exactly the same. They just upped the resolution. But yeah, but I guess that's why, I don't know, I struggle to like get into TV shows these days because I see these kinds of inaccuracies and I think that's not a real person. You know, there's nothing real about this person, so to speak.
That's why I would seriously recommend watching Succession, because again, that's just really interesting, like interpersonal dynamics. It's a show about basically the Murdochs and Trumps combined.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but it's interesting not because it's about money or the media or whatever. It's interesting because it's about intergenerational trauma. It's interesting because it's about horrible parents being responsible for horrible kids who are then responsible for their own horrible kids, and about the like horrifying and disturbing ways all of these people interact with one another. That's what makes it interesting to watch. And it's all about characters, and it's all about what motivates them, and you're never rooting for anyone, and that actually makes it amazingly fun to watch because you're not sort of focused on, oh, I really hope this or that happens. It's just more about, wow, it's just fascinating to see this character going through this or that, and that's just, to me, more rewarding for a TV show.
Did you ever think about writing a TV show or like writing a movie or something?
Oh god, I'm pretty sure I've never actually written like fiction in that. Like I dabbled in it when I was like younger, but I've mostly kept to like editorial stuff and poetry, but I've never gone for like short stories or. I have flirted with it with a friend of mine. Actually, we did start like on a screenplay years ago, but we never went through with it, which is a shame because we had some cool ideas. But yeah.
Writing narrative arcs is so hard.
Yeah, it's really intimidating. Like, and especially if this is gonna sound really insecure and arrogant at the same time. When you're like me and you're a somewhat decent writer, but I would not call myself a good writer or an amazing writer. I'm good at being a content marketer, for example, or like a copywriter. But what I am way better at than writing is recognizing good writing. I'm way better at, for example, being an editor to someone's text than writing my own. I love editing. And the horrible part about that is that because I know what makes writing good and what doesn't, I cannot write anything without being incredibly critical of everything I write down.
Oh no!
And, like if you're like unaware of that, like I have friends who, for example, will write something and it's not all that great, but they aren't sort of in their head all the time thinking about what makes writing good. They just write what they want to write, and sure, it might not be the best thing out there, but at least they're doing it. They're actually doing it. I would, after every single sentence, chastise myself. And
okay.
Yeah, that's.
It's hard to get your feet off of the ground when you have all that going on in your head.
It's that's the hard part about knowing what makes good writing and what doesn't. That when you kind of know you're a decent writer but not a really good writer, it doesn't feel all that rewarding to write anything. It's like, yeah, sure, I can write something and it might be sort of quasi-okay, but if you're not having a blast doing that and you know you're not writing something that will inspire or entertain people, why are you doing it? Like, I'm not having a blast. People will not have a blast reading it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's about, do you enjoy the process enough? Because I do think that if you do it enough, there's a good chance. Like I like Rick Rubin's philosophy about it. You remove distractions and make a lot of your own art. Try and be as authentic as you can to it. Eventually you will create things that you will like.
Yeah.
And then some of those things may be hits, but Like the point is to get to a place where you're creating enough of it that you're creating stuff that you can look at and actually like enjoy, you know.
Well, that's I think for me the biggest issue, and that's also why I haven't written that much poetry, for example, in the last like 10 plus years. I have, but not a lot. Is that like, especially with, you know, the whole, you know, PD thing and everything, for me, like 90% of what I do with this voice in my head going like, how is this going to be interpreted by these people? How is this going to be seen by these people? How is this going to come across over at my friends, over my parents, over on potential love interests? Like every single thing that I do is not done through the lens of what I feel like or want to, but just how is it going to come across? And that's really annoying when it comes to writing, because nobody like every single time I, for example, start writing poetry, every single sentence I'll be like, okay, but I want to get across that this is the stuff that's going on or that's bothering me. So then they will have this response, which is the response I want from them. So it's never actually what is going on. It's more like, what am I supposed to write to get this and this reaction from people? So that's why I love it when people I know make art, like when they write or they make or they illustrate or whatever, because I'm like, that's so cool that you're able to just do something you feel like doing and that you enjoy doing for you, and if people like it, cool, and if they don't, also okay. Like I would love to get to that point again at one point, but yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, so I completely agree with Ruben on that part. Like, it should be something that's just like, it should first and foremost be for you. It should be just what you enjoy doing. Otherwise, you can. That's again, like every single time I would write poetry with, instead of wanting to actually get something on paper, but it being more about me getting a certain response or reaction. Every single time I would look back on it, be like, wow, this is like Hallmark levels of bad. But the few times in the last years where I was in like, you know,
that's harsh, man.
Yeah, but like the thing is, because it's not me, because it's not actually what I was going. It was just like me sort of trying to, basically me being a copywriter. The few times I did actually have like this moment where it's like, oh fuck it, I'm inspired, I'm just gonna write this down. Like, those things sometimes don't even make any sense, but I look back on them and I'm like, yeah, this is interesting. This is pretty cool. This is like, this still resonates in a weird way. This is still me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So I know I'm still capable of that. It's just way harder for me. But yeah, I think that's the best kind of art, where it's just you putting out you, just a part of yourself, unfiltered.
Totally. I mean, there's definitely skill involved, you know, and I mean, you wanted to meet those requirements too. And finding the spot where like both those things, oh Jesus,
Oh man.
where both those things come together, you know, is non-trivial, of course, but yeah, there is something to that. I was always more on the music side, and there are a few things that I've written here and there over the years that I thought were pretty cool. I don't think I would show them. Like, I've never written anything that I thought was good enough to show, but I don't know. It's still, for me, there's something very satisfying about looking back on them. Oh, that's right. I have a rocket launcher. I could have hit the dude with a rocket. Not paying attention. But yeah, I definitely see like this level of analysis of the actually all different sorts of media. Super deep. It seems to come effortlessly to you, actually. I feel like this is going on in your head a lot.
With like all the random pop culture and media and
I don't think it's random. I mean, I definitely think you have certain interests.
oh yeah, true, yeah. It's,
You know, and so like there's definitely You were hiding, you sneaky bastard. There's definitely patterns to it, you know.
well, it's, for me, it's that I love media. I love entertainment because it's safer for me. As in, when it comes to people, like there's always this sort of voice in the back of my head that's all about how I'm presenting myself or how I'm coming across or what I can gain from it, or like there's always that sort of like barrier. But with media, I don't have that. Like I'm not, and it's not like a conscious thing, by the way. It's not like I'm sort of actively thinking, how am I gonna do this and that to get them to be or do this. It's not. It's just like automatic pilot for me. But that means there's like subconsciously, like there's always all these sort of scenarios and possibilities, and I'm like always, whatever I'm doing or saying, I'm always thinking about like, okay, if I do this and this and this, I can get this and this and this done, or if I do this and this, like I always want people to respond in the way I want them to respond, instead of just being me and have people respond the way they feel they want to respond, which is a way more fun, healthier way of interacting. Where like I'm just okay with me being me, and you can like that person or not, or you can like parts of it or not. That's actual interaction. With me, it's like getting points. I just want people to see me in the exact same way I want them to see me. With media, there's none of that. With media, I can just actually feel shit because I can be emotional with media, because media doesn't have a picture of me, or like media doesn't judge. Media doesn't. I don't have to get the acknowledgement or recognition or approval of a game or a piece of music or a movie. Like I can just enjoy them for what they are. So I love media because it's seriously for me way easier to feel anything when it comes to consuming media than, for example, having a heart-to-heart conversation with a friend. Like that's way harder for me to feel stuff, because there's always like this sort of like this analytical side to me. Whereas when I'm playing a game, I can just easily get overwhelmed by emotions, and I love that. Like in the theater, like when the commercials start in the theater, it's not even about what they're trying to say. It's just the music and the big screen and just you sitting in a dark space. That's just enough to get me crying like a kid, and I love that. So yeah, media for me is just it's the ultimate way to sort of actually get in touch with a lot of actual feelings, which I'm really grateful for.
To be fair, though, I do think it's pretty common for like humans to be relatively, certainly relative to other species, like to be really quite aware of how others perceive them, and to want to be perceived positively. I think that's
oh no, that's obviously, yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing about like all of those things, and like especially when it comes to a lot of things from like speaking of personality disorders, it's not like people who have those are alien. It's just that like the if you're looking at the stats for the characters, they've just been moved way more to the right. But yeah, no, they're that's the cool thing, is that they are like 95% of the time universal things. Like everybody has certain social situations they're scared of or uncomfortable with. Doesn't mean everybody's agoraphobic. And everybody has narcissistic tendencies, for example, but doesn't mean they have a narcissistic personality disorder. And everybody has certain like dependency issues or sort of like OCPD or OCD kind of things. Like those are all universal human things, actually, and that's also like really good to sort of keep in the back of your head, because it's like, yeah, it's easy to sort of think of those things as, that's what makes me me, that all of that shit is sort of in overdrive. But the sort of core of those things, that's universal. Like everybody has to sort of work with that, and everybody has those. They might not be as extreme or as recurring as often, but people are, like, most people are familiar with most of those feelings or issues or whatever.
Yeah, totally. You found an interesting channel for it, though, in media, and the sort of media that you like advocate for. And the way that you discuss it as well, actually, because it becomes a platform for a lot of discourse, you know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I appreciate. Like, I remember watching, or listening to. I think I don't remember the details, but it's the guitarist from Tool, and apparently he had some involvement in doing like special effects in movies and stuff like that, and like that's why he did their music videos, or it was something like this. And he was just talking about, you know, being willing to go to the movies and just allow yourself to be amazed, you know. And of course, it's not bad to be critical of what you see. In fact, you know, sometimes questioning what you see is absolutely important, but it's also equally important to, I don't know, I guess allow yourself to be amazed and to experience things and to go to the movies and just see what the movies have to offer for you, you know, and what you get out of it. Yeah.
That's actually something I like even yesterday. It was actually kind of fun. Like as a teenager, I really liked the Reanimation album from Linkin Park.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like the remix album, like the way more hip hop oriented album.
Oh, dude, Pharoah Monch was on that. Pharoah Monch.
Oh yeah, it's like it's such an amazing fucking record though. Like I loved that one so much. Like, and I loved it as a teen, and I loved several singles from like Meteora. I remember like the second album. And I also really love Mike Shinoda's production on, for example, like a Lupe Fiasco track. So I was very much actually like, I loved all those parts of like Linkin Park. I liked those things. But even back then, when I was like fucking 12, 13, I was very much hyper focused on how do I want to present myself to the world. So I had made up my mind like, something like Linkin Park is not sophisticated and it's for infantile, melodramatic, horrible teens.
Oh man.
So even though I love Reanimation and I had like a physical copy, and even though I like these singles, I pretty much just jumped on the narrative. Linkin Park is ridiculous trash for insecure teens who don't know what to do with themselves and just go for the most generic, shitty, fake rock that is out there. That was my narrative for ages. Even though I kept returning to Reanimation because I really fucking love that record.
That's a good record.
That's the image I kept portraying of like Linkin Park and how I felt about them. And like, just like last weekend, I had this moment where I was listening to Reanimation for a bit. I was like, why am I like this? I love this album. I love the singles I heard back then, and I love Shinoda's production on other stuff. Why have I never actually gone into the other albums and checked if I like them? Why have I been, like, for over 15 years being so ridiculously judgy and negative of the band and people who like it? Like, what does that get anyone? So it's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna listen to the other albums, and there's a couple of things in there that I really don't like, but also most of it I really do. And I actually like had a good cry yesterday where I was like, shit, I feel really bad for teenage Frank. Like, he could have been a teen listening to this because he liked it and he knew he liked it, and he could have been listening to this and enjoying himself and feeling sort of heard and relating to stuff, but he was so obsessed with coming across as like smart and sophisticated and cool that he actually just like that young teen Frank actively kept himself from enjoying stuff he knew he liked. It's like, shit, that's so sad. I wasn't even like being mean or judgmental of that fact. I was like, damn, that's so horrible. Like, why would you do that? And I just had a blast as a 31-year-old now sort of rediscovering Linkin Park. And I was like, yeah, you should allow yourself to enjoy things without having to explain why, or having like an argument for it, or without being afraid of, how it comes across. If you like something, you like something. It should be that simple.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I'm glad you got into their other records. They put out some bangers, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a couple songs on like one of the records they did with Rick Rubin that I thought was great.
Oh man.
Chester's voice.
But
this guy.
That's also the thing. Like, it's easy when like they're in the when they're like on the billboard and when they're on the when there's all these hits out. It's easy to be sort of judgy, but it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's really easy now to be like, holy crap, like their mixture of like like new metal and like electronics and hip hop has pretty much not been done by anyone successfully, and like their production is really fucking unique and really interesting. And also, what was really cool and surprising to me is like they kept experimenting. Like
they did.
That means there's albums in there that I find really uninspired, but at least they're different. And there's albums in there that I find really cool and surprising, and that also really helped me sort of see them in a different way. We're like, wow, they did keep, challenging themselves, and they kept trying to do different things. And yeah, Chester has a ridiculously fucking cool and interesting and unique voice.
His set of pipes, this dude.
Mike, like the way he goes from like sort of grunting to like this incredibly like melodic delivery to like it's crazy how he just goes from, he can just go from one thing to like the diametrically opposed thing like in an instant.
Yeah.
And he actually that like until the very end that like I don't think his voice ever really faltered. Like
it did not. It's so clean.
It's really fucking amazing. Yeah.
So clean. Like, and you can hear it in a lot of the live performances. I mean, I'm sure they're not all flawless, of course, and I mean a lot of the ones that end up going viral were the better ones. But to pull a lot of that stuff off live.
Oh yeah.
With
like
that amount of consistency.
That was a pleasant surprise too. When like I was listening to the deluxe versions of some albums, and they have like live versions at the end. And I was like, I usually there's like only a few artists I like listen to live, because with a lot of artists I honestly believe it doesn't add all that much. But here was like, damn, this sounds actually really good live. Like they really knew what they were doing. It was pretty cool.
Very, very, very clean. Fantastic technique.
Also, I also kind of had a new like as a teen and a student, and like until a few months ago, I was very sort of black and white and basically like, yeah, it's just sort of like vacuous, one-dimensional, melodramatic, shitty lyrics. And listening to it now without being a judgy asshole, I'm like, wow, I finally get why it appeals to so many, for example, teens, because it is, for me, like the sort of perfect way to describe the sort of feel of Linkin Park is like optimistic despair. Like, yeah, it's bleak and it's dark and it's about feeling excluded or hopeless or lost or depressed or wanting to end things. Like all of that is in there, but it never gets fatalistic or nihilistic. There's always this sort of weird like optimistic streak in there, or this sort of hope, or this sort of, I really do want things to get better. Like there's always a silver lining to it, which is really cool, especially when you're like a teen and it feels like everyone and everything is against you, where it acknowledges that feeling, and at the same time it's like, yeah, that's true, and it sucks, and everything sucks, and everybody's horrible, but there are good things, and there could be good things for you, and don't like sort of just focus on the bad things, even though it's okay to feel those things and talk about those things. And like, I don't know, it's really cool and surprising to sort of experience it that way.
There's a kind of universality to it for that reason, I think.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I also totally get like the negative interpretation that you had.
It's really easy if you're a pompous asshole to go for that. It's like, yeah.
Well, I think generally it's easy to sort of shrug off themes that are like that common, you know, or I mean, I almost want to say simple, you know, but like, I don't know, universal human experiences come across as simple because they're universal type of thing. And sometimes what makes, you know, like a band hit or a group hit, well, actually, I don't know this for sure, but I think, you know, one of the things that might be is their ability to just capture something that is that universal, that is that simple, you know, but to do it that well, that convincingly. Like when he sings, you feel it, you know, and I don't know how he manages it.
Because that's actually what I love what you're saying, because yeah, it is simple and it is universal, and that means that a huge amount of bands and artists use those themes and those subjects, and not all of them sell like dozens of millions of records. There's a reason why Linkin Park did, and a lot of other bands trying to do the same thing didn't. And it's not all because Linkin Park is better or something like that, but it is about it being a good execution of those themes and those subjects and
Yeah. They did execute it well.
yeah.
And in such a unique way, you know, like, I think a lot of bands were doing a rap rock thing at the time, but I don't know. They sounded so different, so futuristic. Like when that
Oh,
first
yeah.
record came out, it was like, wow, this is some futuristic.
Like those glitchy sound effects, and like there's still nothing like it. Like going back to the, also they're very much like timeless. Those first records, especially like when you listen to those, like especially of course, Hybrid Theory and Meteora. It's like, damn, still nothing really sounds like it. It's weird. It's like creepy and glitchy and oh, it's so good.